Hey guys, there's been some, couple of questions, or there was a question posed on the TGC2 forums about how to avoid the squiggly uh, lines between light rough and heavy rough. So I'm just going to show um, how designers avoid that. And just a real quick note. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and change my rough texture to something visible that we all can see. I'll make it like this. Okay, and then if I take a out here and I create a surface of heavy rough, think a brush, and, I'll just make it really big, and I want to put some heavy rough down, and boom, big thing of heavy rough. You can see how my light rough just got really wavy and miserable. This has been an issue uh, throughout the lifespan of the golf club, starting with TGC1. It's not fixed in TGC2. There's been no indication that it's been fixed in TGC 2019 featuring PGA Tour. Um, but really, we haven't gotten our hands on that yet, so that's still kind of a wait and see. But I will show you how to lay heavy rough without creating that wavy line or avoiding as much of that wavy line as possible. So here I am going to go and grab my heavy rough tool, and I am going to choose a brush. I'm going to take the first circle here, and I'm going to shrink it down to its smallest possible size. And you can see I've already done a bit of this. I started kind of at this bunker, okay? And what I'm doing here is you can see that although I have light rough here, I have this heavy rough band um, next to it on the outside edge. And then there's this right over in this area, there is like sort of a darkened transition from what is actually heavy rough that is auto generated and the terrain that is the default terrain. So in this case, I'm using the step theme. Gives me the highest contrast. You can see the transition, how it goes from green to this brownish gray to gray and tan, and then all the way over to this vanilla looking rock. Okay. So what I'm going to do is you don't want to go, like I showed you, you don't want to overlap like that, but you don't even really want to touch the heavy rough band. That will have an impact on your light rough also. So you want to go outside of that, and like I said, you want to shrink the circle down as small as possible, and go on the outside and stay on the outside and trace the edge like that. And you want to go slow, um, and you will notice you'll miss some spots, and you want to fill those in. Again, don't put it here, but just the edge of that, and put that in. Okay, instead turn green, check to make sure your light rough is not, wavy. Here is, this is a spline, waviness from spline that I'm going to leave in. So, all right, we'll fill that one in, and I'm looking as once I click the accept button, which in PlayStation's case is the X button, I am not really focused on what's happening near my circle. I'm focused on what's happening in the transition between the light rough and the heavy rough. Click to make sure that doesn't get wavy, and I see there's no change. I filled it in, and that's kind of what I want. And I want, from a top view, you can see these striations. You can see how the outside edge looks really crappy. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that later. Okay, and that's basically what we're going to do. We're going to trace this all the way around the fairway. In my case, I'm going to put some heavy rough around the bunkers. Don't be too concerned if you end up with this. Like I said, we can go ahead and fix that later. Come in here. And like I said, what you're trying to do is get as close to that transition as possible without touching the heavy rough that's there. And you'll see. And you want to go slow so that you don't end up doing like the whole fairway and then inspecting it later and be like, oh, this looks like crap. So you want to go slow so you can do it. I have this bunker here, so I can skip a little bit of space. But again, I want to be careful with where I pick this up again. And you can see it did move my light rough a little bit. I didn't think that one was too terrible. Just move it out there and it keeps it where I want it. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and trace this. I do want, in my design, I want some of these little bare patches around. So I will build those in spaces, and I'll leave them. Sometimes when I do the edging, let's go back. And you really want to work slowly with, really control. It takes some practice to get the hang of doing this. There are some themes where this method isn't really necessary because the transition between heavy rough and the base terrain looks fairly natural. I would say the rustic theme is good because the heavy rough that's put in looks a lot like the base terrain. So you don't get that narrow band that doesn't look good. The tropical theme is hit or miss. The Highlands theme looks really good. Again, Highlands and rustic have the same texture for base terrain. So just one's a little bit greener. I'm using the step theme, so there's naturally quite a bit of contrast between what's heavy rough and what's base terrain. My base terrain is rock, so heavy rough is really required to outline and frame a hole. If you were to just leave base terrain, just build on the just build your fairways and light rough and left that heavy band, that thin heavy rough band, you'd end up with a course that is very yellow and brown and really not that great a look. The other thing too is the desert and steppe themes. The planting meter when you plant objects, when you place objects like trees and houses and stuff, it seems to fill up really quickly, so you don't get a big bang for your buck with items. And the one way to combat that is to use a lot of grass, a lot of like surface grass and heavy rough, just so that you don't have to plant quite as big an area. And the other way to avoid it is to keep the holes within close proximity to one another, so that part of the quote-unquote planting of one hole is the fact that you can see other holes on the golf course. So I'm just going around and again I'm talking and I'm saying a lot of things, and as I'm doing that, going through and tracing this, and you can see it's taking a fair amount of time. It's not a quick process. Um, so this is just about how you do it. Just the main thing is to go slow, be patient. I gotta fix a spline issue here. I can create saves as rough spline. I don't like the way that looks. So. Okay, better. Okay. Oh, another spline. Did I missed this spline or something? What did I do? All right, we'll fix that here. Didn't quite have the intended effect. It's a little better. You know what? It's fine. Sometimes, even though it's a spline issue and it could look better, because of where it is on the course, like it's the front of my fairway, um, most people are not going to really notice it. So, um, while it could be better, the value in making it better is not really there. And that's something uh, when it comes to my work, that's one of the things we talk about is does what I'm doing have value? And in that case, while it's not perfect and it could look better, it doesn't have value. Whereas this tracing method, while it's tedious and frustrating and annoying, it has immense value in keeping the course looking neat and tidy and nice straight straight curved lines, and that some sort of oxymoron, but nice gradual curves without wavy edges. So just going to continue to do this. It's actually almost done. I've only got that little bit left to do. And like I said, if you want to avoid having to do this, work in a theme that has a nice, deep, a rich base texture. Rustic is really good for that. Highlands is good for that. Um, Tropical is fairly good for that as well. Actually, Tropical's really good. Winter requires you to have to lay heavy rough because the base terrain is too white. It's too frosted. Even if you make the heavy rough texture like is yellow. Countryside is another one. I find that if you give your countryside course an overseeded look with a brownish dormant rough and heavy rough, then there's not much difference there. It kind of goes away. Let's see. I want to keep those rocks. Let's kind of do this. Kind of want to keep that rock there. And then I'll just kind of, okay, here I have a bunker, so I'm just going to do that. And kind of just within here, being careful not to go too far. And seeing I missed a couple spots, and I want that. I want For the look I'm going for, I want every now and then there to be, a dry patch here and there. All right, so I got a dry patch over there, a dry patch right on the edge of that bunker there. I got a dry patch over here. All right, guys. Just all right, and I'm back. Sorry about that for anyone watching. Here's this bunker here, and I want to get this kind of in there. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh, I got this one too. All right, so one more bunker here to fill in. Kind of like that. Maybe a little bit more here. Fine. All right. And now I've got this disgusting edging. So the way to fix that is I'm going to take heavy rough spline, and I'm just going to start. I'm going to just pick a point to start. It doesn't really matter. I'll just grab this point here. And I want to start inside and then work out. So I'm just going to put this kind of like here and kind of go this way with it. Just grabbing the edge of it. And just take the spline and fill it out here. And this will give me a cleaner edge. And then I can adjust this as I see fit. Later. Spline. That. Come through here and around this bend. Right, and I'm going to come this way, and you want to crisscross your splines. There you go. And, right, I've missed this brush. Right, I missed this spot here, and boom, put a circle in there. Right, I don't need to have a triangle-shaped striation, but I do get that little dry patch in there. Got some dry patches there. I can go ahead and, alright, I'm just gonna smooth. Oh, I don't want a sharpened path. A smooth path. Right, and now I get a wavy path. Right, and I'm not too worried about little kinks with heavy rough. See here, I've got this little indentation. I want to maybe delete this waypoint. There we go. That looks better. There you go. And that is how we use the trace method to create heavy rough around a light rough without creating those wavy lines. I hope this was helpful for anyone watching. If anyone's out there in chat, I apologize. I don't have the chat up. I need to sign off. But thanks everyone for watching, and have a good day, guys. Take care.